Hey everyone. All right, here is the tutorial for my Authentique Voyage collection album that I made. I will be walking you through step by step for each page. I did take out the twine so that way I can kind of go through it and show each page step by step. So let's get started. So this is a 5-page album. Pages are 8 by 8, and they do not have a top or side pocket. So they are a solid page, and again, pages are 8 by 8. There's going to be 5 pages. I already made 4 of them, so I'm going to go walk through page 5 with you on how to make it. So that way I can kind of save some time. So you're going to need to cut 8 pieces of 8 by 8 cardstock. And then you're also going to have to cut 5 pieces of 8.5 by 9 cardstock. On the 8.5 by 9 sheet, you're going to want to score it with the 9 across the top. You're going to score it at 1/2 inch, rotate it, 8.5 at the top, score it at 1/2 inch, rotate it, and score it at 1/2 inch. So you're scoring 1/2 inch on 3 sides. All right. And then what we're going to do is you're going to miter your 2 corners. Burnish over your score lines. And when you finish burnishing, this piece should now be an 8 by 8 piece. And what you're going to do is, and I'm using my art glitter glue, so you can use your adhesive, liquid adhesive, your score tape. I use art glitter glue now for all my albums. And I did not grab a wipe. I'm going to have to grab one. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding my other 8 by 8 piece to my burnish fold lines. All right, matching side to side, edge to edge. And let me run and get my wipe real quick. All right. So you've added your bottom piece. Now what you want to do is add your sides. So I'm just going to add glue to both my sides. And then fold this over, matching my papers edge to edge. And you're going to make 5 of these. So that's our page. That's our base page. That turns to be an 8 by 8 with your hinge opening. And your hinge opening is always going to be on your left. So let's start with page 1. Page 1 is this page right here. We've got the side flap on the right, and we've got a full flap on the left, and then we have another open flap. And then we have an inside pocket on the base page. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So for that, you're going to need one piece of cardstock that is 8.5 by 8, and you're going to score it 1/2 inch along the side here. You're going to burnish that, fold over, okay? Your next piece is going to be an 8 by 8, all right? And you're going to score a 1/2 inch along the left-hand side. So this now becomes an 7.5 by 8. Okay, and you're going to add this to your first 8.5 by 8. Let me find my scissors. And we're going to miter the corners. And I'm going to go ahead and miter the corners on this one as well. Okay. So, with your burnished side on your right-hand side, you want to add your 7.5 by 8 sheet on your left-hand side. And just match it up here. Edges, make sure your top and your bottom meet. Okay. Now get your page, and again, your hinge side opening will be on your left, and you want to go ahead and add your adhesive to this one. And then you're going to line it up edge to edge here. Okay, so there is your main page, your outside flap, opening it up, and then you've got your inside flap. Your next piece, you're going to want a 3 3/4 by 8. Okay, and you want to score it at a 1/2 inch. You want to miter your corners. Burnish your score line. And then this one you're going to put on your right hand side. And again, matching your top to your bottom, your edges to edges. So now you have your right flap. Your next piece is going to be a 3.5 by 9, and you're going to score this on 3 sides to make your inside pocket. So a 1/2 inch, rotate it a 1/2 inch, and then rotate it again and a 1/2 inch. So you've got 3 sides that are scored at a 1/2 inch. And I need to grab some scrap paper. Because I did not cut the side pocket, so we'll do that. All right, So let's go ahead, and you want to miter your corners on your pocket. And I do a large slant on my miters, so when I fold my burnish sides over, they're not touching, and I have less of a bulk in my corners. Again, this is a 3.5 by 9. So when you score it and burnish your edges, you're going to end up with a pocket that is the size of 3 by 8. And that's going to fit right on the inside of your main page, because your main pages are 8. And when I see how mine don't touch here on my corners, that helps prevent the bulk when you make pockets. Okay, and we're going to just line that up at the bottom, and that should fit perfectly in there. Okay, and what I did not cut was the pocket for this side, because I do have a pocket on the inside of that, right there. So we are going to need to cut a 4 1/4 by 3 1/2, because we want the pocket to be the same size, the height. Let me get a piece of scrap paper here, and we're going to cut 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. And we're going to score this and on 3 sides at a 1/2 inch. So a 1/2 inch, rotate it, a 1/2 inch, rotate it again, and a 1/2 inch. And that's going to give us our 3 1/4 size pocket. So go ahead and again miter your corners. And I'm going to miter the top ones as well. Burnish your folds. And we're going to add our adhesive. And just set it right in there, edge to edge. So there's page 1. I'm going to fold mine down the top. I did not get that. You want to make sure you don't want it on your, let me go back in and re-varnish, score mine. It looks like it should be, So make it 3.5 by 4. Don't go over the 4 1/4. Maybe 4 1/8, because mine's a little bit bigger. It's not allowing it to. So I would go 4 1/8. See if that's going to fit now better. It is. That 4 1/4 was just, it hit right on that seam, and it wasn't going to lay flat. So it should be 3.5 by 4 1/8. And I think that's going to give you a better pocket, and it will. Much better. And you're going to put a magnet here. Magnet here and a magnet here. So it's going to hold it all down. Okay, flip it over, and now your opening for your hinges on your right. We're going to do back of page 1. Back of page 1 has our 2 little catches here, and then our 2 flaps here. And then you've got your full layout. So, back of page 1, you're going to want 2 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 6 1/2. 3 3/4 by 6 1/2, 2 of those. And then you're going to want 2 pieces that are 2 by 2. And on the 2 by 2, these are, I'm going to go ahead and miter the corners before I put them in. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch on my rounder. So, and I think, I think I'm going to round these 2. And I'm going to use the 1/4 inch again. Okay, so back of page 1. You got your 2 flaps that you're going to put on your left-hand side. And look, I put them about a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch up on that one, on the bottom, and the same for the top. And I'm just eyeballing it, but you can measure. I just eyeball. Okay. Now for this one, I need to get my crocodile out. And you probably should have put your holes in this one before you put it down, but of course I'm going to do everything the hard way, so. And I'm just using my crocodile and punch my holes in there. And I can line them up on here afterwards, so. Let me turn my paper this way just so I can kind of get an idea of where the middle is. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. And that's how I figure out where I want my hole here. But I'm not going to punch my hole in this one until I add my pattern paper. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one here. And again, I'm just eyeballing it in the center. Now you can wait to do your holes until you use your pattern paper on that, but I just wanted to kind of show you, okay? And then you'll have a hole over here for your twine. Okay, that's back of page 1. Page 1 is done. Let's move on to page 2. Page 2, we have a flap that comes to your left and a smaller flap that goes to your right. So you're going to need your page 2 here with your spine opening to your left, and you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock cut. Your first one for your left side is going to cut at 6 by 8. Your second one for your right side is going to be cut at 5.5 by 6. Okay, and you're going to you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side, and with the 5.5 at the top, score it at 1/2 inch as well. So now, because this is fitting page to page, I am going to miter my edges on the 8-inch one. I'm going to score that over. Add my adhesive. Again, making sure my opening for my hinge is on my left hand side. And I'm just going to put that on. And then I'm not going to miter the edges on this one because it doesn't hit to the page, so I can just put that in. Add my adhesive. Now this is 6 inches long. My paper's 8, so I'm going to add this right here at the 1-inch line. So I've got a 1-inch gap on both front, top, and bottom. Okay, so I've got my flap on the left, flap on the right, and I will add a magnet again here and here. Flip it over, back of page 2. Back of page 2, we are going to make just one nice long booklet on top of the page. So you're going to need 3 pieces. So your base for your book is going to be 6 by 8. Then you're going to cut 2 pieces, one that is 6.5 by 8 and one that is 5.5 by 8. And on the 6.5 and the 5.5 by 8, you do want to score it at a 1/2 inch on one side. So taking your base, I'm going to start with this 6.5 inch one, and I'm going to miter my corners. And I'm going to add it right to the edge to create my left flap of my book. And those both should be 6 by 8 after you add that on. So now you have your first half of your book. Your second half, go ahead and do the same. Burnish your score lines. Miter your edges. And I am using the artesian cardstock in the denim blue. This book, album, I will be using the Graphic 45 ocean blue paper to finish it up. Okay, so there's our book. You've got your left hand and you got your right side when you open it up. Okay, so what you want to do is, again, your opening's on your left. Make sure you're right from the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive on the back of my base page, my base of my booklet. And again, this is 6 inches. So I'm just going to measure it, line it up with the 1 inch. That gives me an inch on each side. Open it up. Just make sure your edges are top and bottom are meeting. And of course you're going to add a magnet here and here. And then on this one, I did create, I did use a little punch and added a tab to open it. And then I just used the pattern paper on the sides to line it. Okay, page 2, already done. Let's grab page 3. Again, make sure your hinge side opening is on your left-hand side. Page 3, we've got a, excuse me, a flap to your left and a flap to your right, and then we've got a waterfall on that inside. So let's go ahead and see what pages you need to cut, and I will have a cutting guide listed on in the description of this video for each page, so that way you can pre-cut your pages, or your pages. So for the first, for the left hand side, you're going to want a 5 by 8 piece of paper, cardstock, and then you want to score and add a 1/2 inch on your left hand side. Your second piece, you want a 4 7/8, all right, by 8, and you're going to score this at a 1/2 inch and then at 3/4 an inch. And the reason for that is you need that gusset for your waterfall. Okay, then you're going to need to cut 5 sheets that are 4 by 5.5. So those are your vertical waterfall. So let's go ahead and start with our 5 by 8 with the 1/2 inch gusset. That is going to be our left hand side flap. You want to go ahead and miter your corners. And line this up. Okay, and then your 4 7/8 by 8, you want to fold over your burnish. So you burnished it at 5.5 and 3 1/4. So that's going to give you a 1/4 gusset on this side. That's going to work with your waterfall. That you're going to just line up on your right hand side. And then you've got your 1/4 gusset on this one. Okay, on your waterfall, you want to, on the 5.5 at the top, you want to add a 1/2 inch score line. Fold those over and burnish them to make your waterfall. Okay, so this is your right hand side flap. I'm putting it at the top. I'm not mitering my corners on my waterfall pieces, and I'm just lining it up next to the fold line, the top and the fold line right there. So your gusset, that 1/4 inch gusset is going to allow that as we build our waterfall. Okay, so all you're going to do is, that's your first one, you're going to take your next one, add your adhesive, and you want to line it up with this edge here to make sure that we're straight, and you don't just want to butt it right up, and it should butt up next to that score line there and the edge of that one. There's your start of your waterfall, and just continue on with each one. Okay, there's your waterfall, and I did only use 5 pieces, but this gives you a good area here. You got a 5.5 by 4 for a picture area here. So I only papered on this side, and then I put a piece of white cardstock here, and then since I backed all of these with white, I went ahead. You can put another sheet of pattern paper here. It doesn't have to be white, but then when you fold this over, that's how it's going to close. Okay, so you are going to have a little bit of a gusset there, but you're going to need it, because once you start adding pattern paper and then pictures on here, this is going to build up. And I did not put a magnet on my waterfall. I don't think I did. Let me double check. So, yeah, I didn't do a magnet on my waterfall. I did it on this one right here. I did it somewhere here. Yeah, I've got a magnet right here is where I have it down here. And that's going to hold that over. Okay. Next, on the back of that, we are doing just a little fold over here. So you want to flip your page over, and on the back, you're only going to need one piece of cardstock for this one, and it's going to be 4.5 by 8. And you want to score it at 1/2 inch. And I measured in at 2. I measured in from 2 inches from the inside here. And just lined it up. And then I added a magnet here and here. Okay. That's page 3. Let's go on to page 4. Again, your hinge opening to your left. Page 4, I did. Okay. This one, we're going to do a flap. And on the flap, we're adding pockets on the inside. Okay. And then we added the, let me move that over. And then we made the tabs for it. So you have a flap that you're going to flip over on both sides. And then with the inside have pockets. All right. So for your flaps, you're going to need, for the left-hand side, you're going to want it 6.5 by 8. And for the right-hand side, you're going to want it 5.5 by 8. And you want to score 1/2 inch on one side, okay? So let's go ahead and furnish our fold. I'm going to go ahead and miter my corners. I'm going to go ahead and do the left-hand side. Miter my corners. front and your back. You want to cut 4 for your pockets. You want to cut 4 pieces that are 4 by 5. So you want to cut 4 of them that are 4 by 5. And then you're going to score a 1/2 inch on 3 sides with the 5 at the top. And you want to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and miter my corners before I fold my score lines over. And again, you need 4 of these. What you're doing is you're making 4 pockets. Okay, so I've got all my pockets ready, and I'm going to start with my left-hand side first. And our pages are 8 inches long, so each pocket becomes 4 inches. And I'm just going to meet this up with the score line and the edge. And that's going to be our first pocket on that one. Take our second pocket. And just, again, you're going to butt it right up to that other one. Butt it right up to that edge and meet right there at the, not on top of your score line, but right above it. And that gives you your 2 pockets. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing on the other inside of the flap, on the other side. And again, right up to the edge. You're right next to your score line, not on top. I'm just going to put that right up next to that one and bring it up a little bit. Just make sure you're not on top of your score line. You got to be right above it. And that's going to give me my 2 pockets on that side. Okay. All right. So for your tabs for your left-hand side, you're going to cut 2 pieces of cardstock that's 3 1/2 by 7 3/8. And those are going to fit right in there. For your right hand side, you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 5. And those are going to fit right in there. So when you fold this over, that's not there. When you fold this over, and then your tabs are going to, your picture tags are going to fit over and be out. Page 4. Let's turn to the back of page 4. For the back of page 4, got my pages mixed up. Okay. Page 4, you're going to need 2 pieces. Your first piece is going to be a 6.5 by 8. And with the 6.5 at the top, you want to score it at a 1/2 inch. And the reason for that is this is going to be a top flap on that page. So you want to make sure you're scoring it on with the 6.5 at the top. And you're going to go ahead and burnish your score line. And make sure that this is the top. So your opening should be towards your left or your right, but I kind of moved it over so I turned my paper around so I can add this to the top. Okay, so your hinge, your opening is to your right. You're adding this to the top part of your page. And that is your top flap. For the bottom, you're going to need a piece that is 4 by 9 for your pocket. And again, you're going to score it 1/2 inch on 3 sides to create your pocket. And this is just going to go on the bottom. And that flaps down. Now, again, I didn't cut this, and we'll cut it. I just need a small piece of scrap for this. So let me find something here. And you're going to cut 2-inch by 2 inches. 2 inches. Yes. 2-inch by 2-inch. score it a 1/2 inch. And you're going to, this is going to be your little tab down here to hold these closed with your twine. And you're going to add that right to the top of the pocket. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. Okay, page 4 is done. Okay, let's move on to page 5. Page 5, it's 4 flaps that I created, and then the main page has a pocket. And to hold the flaps down, I used a one of the 3x4 cards and layered it onto cardstock with a magnet, and then that's what holds it down. So I'm going to take this off, and we're going to create the 4 flaps here and the pocket. So for this page, you're going to need one 3.5 by 9 piece, okay, with the 9 at the top. You want to score at a 1/2 inch on all 3 sides. On 3 sides, not all 3 sides. So 1/2 inch on 3 sides to create your pocket. And then you're going to have 4 pieces that are 4.5 by 6. So with the 4.5 at the top, you want to score a 1/2 inch on each one of these. I'm sorry, I didn't have these already cut and scored because I had to wait for paper to come in because I was out of paper. My denim blue, because what I had I used on my other album for Ocean Blue. So let's start with our 4.5 by 6. You've scored them. Let's burnish the score lines. Okay, in our page 5, again, you want to make sure your opening for your hinge is on the left. Starting with one of the 4.5 by 6 sheets, I'm going to miter just the bottom half of this. Actually, I'm going to miter both of them. My adhesive, and I'm going to stick the first one down at the bottom, and I'm going to line it up to the side, the left hand side, and the bottom. The next one I'm going to miter again. I'm going to miter the top and the bottom just because I want less bulk as I can. Add my adhesive. And I'm going to line this up at the top and then just right next to the fold line of my first one. Okay, and there's our 2 flaps right there. And you want to do the same thing on the other side. You want to make sure that when you're putting down the first one that you get it right next to the side. So I'm going to turn my paper a little bit. So I can line this right up, right on the edge of my paper at the bottom and on the side. Yep, and I move that one. Yep. Add some more adhesive. I don't know what I did there, but lining it up again. And that's going to allow that to, I didn't get that first one lined up right. Okay. Fold that over. And that's going to align that, those right up there. And then you want to do the same with the next one. And you're going to, again, do the same method, matching it up at the very top. And right next to your fold line. And that should fold right over there. Okay, then you want your 3.5 by 9, which is going to be your pocket for the inside. Go ahead and line it. Fold over our score lines. Furnish your fold lines. And then just line it up on the inside page right next to your fold lines. Why is this over? Okay. For some reason mine isn't fitting right. My page is 8 and 8 by 8, so I'm just going to bring it in a little bit. Because I don't want that on my fold line. One of the reasons why I like to use my art glitter glue is if I was using score tape, I wouldn't have been able to pull that up at all. So, all right, try this again. All right, that's better. Because I want to be able, my flaps to be able to fold over. So double check your pocket before you put your adhesive on it to make sure that it fits and that your flaps will fold over. Okay. Page 5. Turn it over. Let's do the back of page 5. And page 5 has a right hand flap, a left hand flap, and then it's open. So let me pull that up. Right hand flap, left hand flap, and then open. Okay, so you want to cut for your left hand side. you're going to cut a 7 3/4 by 6. So 6 by 7 3/4. And with the 7 3/4 at the top, you want to score it at a 1/2 inch. The 6 by 6, you want to score it at a 1/2 inch for the right hand side. Then you're going to want 2 of your little tabs that are 1 1/2 by 1 3/4 and score those at a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this score line over. And I scored this one over. So since this is, I'm sure I've got the right side because you want your hinge opening on your right. Since this is my 6 by 6, I know that it's going to be an inch from on each top and bottom. So I'm just going to measure it up here, make it an inch, and bring it right over to the edge of my paper. So that's my right hand side. Then I'm going to bring my left hand one over, and I'm just going to match it up. Again, an inch and an inch. The 1 inch mark. And that, just double check. I want to line these up perfectly, so I'm going to pause this for just a second. Okay. Okay, so page 5, back of page 5, I've added the tabs. I haven't punched the holes, and I just added them on like that. Let's move on to the front cover insert, and that is going to be 3 sheets of cardstock. You want your base cut at 6 by 8.5 because our covers are 8.5 long, wide. They're 8.5 by 8.5, so you want to cut this one 6 by 8.5. Your next sheet's going to be 6.5 by 8.5. And then you want to score that at 1/2 inch on one side. And then your next one is going to be 6.5 by 8.5, and you're going to score that at 1/2 inch. So 2 6.5 by 8.5, 1 6 by 8.5. And we're going to make this just like we did the other one. So let's go ahead and fold over our score lines and burnish. And I'm going to go ahead and miter my corners. And you want to add this to the base. going to add this one to the base. Now when you go to add this to your cover, you definitely want to mat the back of your cover. Or what I did on this one is I went ahead and I put glue on the back of the base, put it down, and then I just did my side panels with my paper. Because you don't really need the paper underneath this, so I just matted the sides and then that. Then you're going to have, you want your two little tabs here, which again, you're going to cut 2 by 2, and you need 2 of them. Actually, they're 1.5 by 2. I'm sorry. 1.5 by 2. Okay, and this one's going to fit. And what I did on this is I put a cut apart here and then stuck this under the cut apart. This one, when I scored it, I scored it at 1/2 inch, then I scored it at 3/4. So you have that 1/4 an inch gusset here in between. So when you put your photos in here, that's going to allow it room to expand up. Okay. So that's your front. Now the back cover, it is a expandable pocket with 3 waterfalls. Okay. And then your tab to close it. Whoops. So what you need for this, for the back, is you're going to need, get my papers here. You're going to need, for your waterfall, you're going to need 3 sheets that are cut 5 by 6. And you're going to score these at 1/2 inch on the 5-inch side. So 5 inches at the top and 1/2 inch. 5 inches at the top and 1/2 inch. 5 inches at the top and 1/2 inch. You're also going to need a 6 by 6.5 sheet, and that's going to be your pocket base. And then you're going to need a 9 by 7. Okay, so in the 7 at the top, you want to score it at 1/2 inch. You want to flip it around and score it at 1/2 inch on the other side. So you can score it at 1/2 inch and then at 6.5, or you can flip it around. Then with the 9 inches at the top, you want to score 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1/2 inch. Flip it over, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. Okay. Now for this, you're going to we're going to cut off the 1/2 inch over to Obviously, I don't cut straight. Like that. Okay, and you want to do that on both sides. Alright. And then you want to fold over your burnish and burnish your score line. Now, we're going to glue this down. This is going to be the top of your envelope, and that's going to give you an extra just reinforcement for when you're putting things in and out of that. That way it just kind of holds it and gives it extra strength up here, and it's nice and smooth at the top. You want to take this and just miter that corner down and do the same. And what I'm doing is just coming up by the end and folding it up. And that's going to be your top. Fold the bottom score line over. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and fold these as well. So I'm going to fold them this way. And then this back over. So I'm creating my valley and fold. Like that. Okay. And I'm coming over here and I'm cutting off the first two. And then I'm mitering and then cutting off this down here at the top. So it looks like that. And the same over here. So I'm going to miter and then cut off. Actually, I'm not mitering. I'm going to cut all of them off just like I did the top. Sorry. So I'm cutting clean across. Like that. Okay. You're going to fold that one up. And I'm going to miter this just a little bit, not a whole lot, on both sides. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my corners and fold them up. I did not get my fold line right on this one. Okay. Just let that dry for just a second. You want your 6 by 6.5. And then you want to add your glue to the bottom and up the side. And take your base, your 6.5 by 6. So it should be 6 across, 6.5 at the top. And that way it gives you that 1/2 inch at the top. And there's your pocket, your expanding pocket. Okay. Now you want to take your waterfall pieces, score it, fold over your score and burnish them. And starting at the bottom. Add this right there. So your waterfalls are going to be 4.5 tall, 6 in length. And you want to add these just like you would a normal waterfall, right on top, right up next to that one you just laid down. Okay. And there's your waterfall, and with your on top of your expandable pocket. You want to take a piece that's 1.5 by 4, and you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And I did cut this a little bit longer, and the reason for that is because I added that on mine. I added the cut apart here, so I wanted it a little bit longer. And so I went ahead, and you can cut this off shorter if you want, but I would wait till you decorate it to see what you are adding to it. So I'm just going to put this in the middle. And I'll put a magnet under here, and then my decoration on top of there. Okay. And then when you go to add it to your book, you're just going to add your adhesive all over the back, and then place it on the back cover of your book where you want it. And that is the pages for this album. And we will start creating the album cover here in just a second.